This is probably the video I'm the most scared to put up. But but the feeling of it helping someone somewhere kind of overrides that for me. Hey, I'm Chai Ping. If you don't know, I like to post videos up on this website sometimes, and I have a lot of fun making them. I put up a Vlogmas series this past month, and I don't know if people cared, but I thought it would be cool if I gave some context to like why my life looks the way it is right now. And I wanted to start with this. I feel like most of my professional career, the jobs I found the most significant to me, I was either fired or let go. I was either fired or laid off from. But let's start from sort of the beginning, because each sort of time was a little bit different from each other, and I just want to let anyone know that's going through the same situation that they're not alone. For the first 6 months out of college, I was interning at an orangutan sanctuary back home in Malaysia, and it was a lot of fun. I knew I wanted to do something with either animals or film and TV. So I posted a little series about working with orangutans on YouTube. Did a little bit better than I expected. And I applied to the Disney College program, I remember, and I got in, and that moved me down to Southern California, the region where the entertainment, like film and TV capital of the world is. And yeah, I stayed on, and I worked part-time after my Disney College program. And I bumped into these YouTubers. This is the real start of the journey. I bumped into these YouTubers who gave me my first job in film and TV. And they were these guys that were really known for going to different restaurants and trying them and like sort of talking about culture that way. They were also incredibly masculine, and I had gone to a women's college, so there were some things that I wasn't really, I guess they could tell I wasn't like, they couldn't vibe with me on it. And yeah, I was their assistant sort of for like a year. Yeah. And basically they told me what the job was, and I didn't sign anything, I remember. And I just said, yeah, I'll do it. And they paid me hourly. And, towards the end, they just started telling me to come into the office less. And eventually they just didn't ask me to come into the office at all. And I was sort of like doing this freelance, I guess, but like, I guess when you come out of college, you think that your job, whatever job you have, is gonna be like, oh, you'll work 40 hours a week, and like there'll be a conversation if they don't want you anymore. That wasn't the case here. And I remember literally meeting one of my former bosses at another event after this, and he was just like, yeah, I just ran out of work for you to do. So that was, I guess, getting let go number one. I'm not sure if I would call that being let go, actually, now that I talk about it. And I also used to work for their friends who made a lot of fictional shorts on YouTube. And I was a production assistant for them on one or two shorts, I remember. And I remember before going into that, I asked, how much I would be paid. And then the production manager was like, oh, you could be paid like this much per hour. And I was like, okay. So I did it. And then I remember when I got the check at the end of the shoot, they kind of had like a disappointed look to their face a little bit. And then the next shoot came around, and I wanted to go out for it, and I think I asked, how much I would be paid, and then they're like, oh, we're not gonna pay for this. Like, there are people that are willing to do this for free, just for the, experience. So why would we pay someone when we don't have to? And this is an Asian channel, okay? A lot of people are just like, oh, like, why don't the big Asian channels like sort of give people who don't live close by opportunities? Because they don't want to pay for anything. They don't want to pay for housing, and they don't even want to pay for people to work for them that, would be willing, because there would be people that would be willing to do it just to gain experience, just to start. So a lot of these situations are going to be like, yeah, it makes sense for them that they thought that way for their business, but it also sucks for me, or it also sucks for the person who like works for them. So yeah. So that was that. And then I went to film school for a little bit. I just like sort of wound up there, and I did multiple internships, and those all went great. Did pretty good, did pretty okay in those. And then my first job out of film school was to work in the mailroom of a management company, meaning a company of managers. And these people manage like writers, directors, and actors. These people are part of their team, I guess. And, if I'm not sure, you guys have heard of agents before too, but agents and managers fall under this umbrella term called representation in entertainment, and it's like traditionally known to be pretty difficult. Like, the day in the life of working as an assistant in representation is hellish. Yeah, I worked in the mailroom of one of these places. I had a great time in the mailroom. I had a lot of time to read different scripts, and like I also got to like help different managers when their assistants were out, and sort of got to learn the different styles that they had. And then I was handpicked to work as one of the partner's assistants. He had two. And it was a good time for the first several months. Like, I worked with my coworker, who was another assistant to him, like hand in hand. And our boss was a great, understanding, low-key dude. And about towards the end, what happened was that, he was so low-key, he gave us free reign. Like, he had us check his emails so that we would flag what's important for him to read. And other people in his circle found out about that. And he got, I think more of his business was sort of put under a microscope, and he kind of was more sensitive about any sort of mistakes that that his assistants made as a team, because we barely made any mistakes because we would just have each other's back. And there was I guess I got kind of nervous sometimes around him, because he was such a legend in the management world and in like the film and TV world, and maybe that kind of showed. And maybe that made me help, like, make some mistakes in front of him. And then he pulled me into his office one day, and he was just like, I just want to let you know, like, you're like a great person, but I think I need someone with more experience in my office right now, which was totally understandable because I never thought I could handle the amount of clients he had. Even when I was working the mailroom, I was like, I don't think I'll ever become his assistant. And also, like, he was just so high up there. It also, normally people who worked in the mailroom worked for someone else, a manager who wasn't a partner, before they worked for him. And this was like the busiest guy in the office, I remember. Okay, all this to say, and then so he was like, I think I need someone with more experience in my office. And then HR told me, hey, like, these other two managers need a second person to help them both, and we're moving you there whether you like it or not. And I was like, okay, I guess. And one of these managers, it was someone that I had, reached out to, like, a while ago, just because he managed people that I was, like, interested in the careers of, and he never gave me the time of day to do that. And when I was moved to him, I tried to set, and I had to literally ask to set some time aside if he could talk to me and tell me, like, what he liked in an assistant, what he expected of me, all that. And they just kept kicking that can down the road. And I did my best on that desk. I remember my partner was a stuck up little girly pop. And I think she had gone through a very hard breakup like years ago, and she was still taking it out on things that she did. And because I think there's a part of Hollywood, working in it where especially women like to feel superior, show that they are superior. And I am at least on the outside, quite a nice, sweet, humble girl. And I think she went full on like, what's her name in The Devil Wears Prada? That was literally my life for a while. I was literally Andy from The Devil Wears Prada for a bit. She was Emily Blunt. I forget, what's it? Andy and I'm forgetting her name, but she was Emily Blunt's character. And every time I made a mistake on that desk, it was a big deal because she was too scared to, like, face the manager about it. She, like, didn't want to, like, work with me. And the manager, of course, gets a mistake that the assistant made, right? Like, if they're put under pressure and their assistant makes a mistake, oh yeah, it's like they'll make a huge deal out of it. I remember the ways that he would try to discipline me, and he would just ask the same question over and over until he got, I guess, sort of like the answer that he wanted. He would pull me into Zoom meetings and in his office, and he wouldn't be there in person. He would tell me to close the door, and he would basically tell me his thoughts or how big of a mistake I made on Zoom with his camera off. The one mistake I made that really did it for him was when I sent an email to like a partner's assistant telling them that it was confirmed that a meeting was canceled for the next day, and they were at some holiday party, so they didn't read it. And the guy, their boss, showed up to the meeting the next day, and my boss did not. And when my boss heard that the partner showed up and he didn't, he did one of those like things again where he told me to go into his office and close the door while he was on Zoom. And he said that it was my fault that the assistant didn't read their email, and that I should have checked that the assistant read the email. Okay, so half of you are probably thinking like, that's crap. That like, it's not your job to check if someone else reads their email. The other people who might have been, who maybe some of you guys are just like, yeah, you should have checked that they read their email, because like I guess like it's an important meeting. Like you want to make sure that they see it, or and those two perspectives existing in my head are like, they are still at war with each other sometimes when I think about that experience. And yeah, that man fired me. And literally the company was just like, we are gonna give you a month of severance, or you can stay in the mailroom for a month. And I was like, screw you guys. Like, first of all, I've worked for your top person. Second of all, what sort of offensive deal is that? So I left. There's a part of me that is just like, good riddance. And there's another part, I mean, I took that severance. And there's another part of me that's just like, I do feel like I deserve all those criticisms, and they still hurt. They still hurt. My very next job was like working at my very next job was my dream job. I got to work as a coordinator on an animated movie, and it was a good time. I love animation people, I've learned. It was going pretty well for the first about 6 months. And then I think executives thought that our current creative producer was not getting them in the direction that they wanted to go. So they hired another creative producer who was more old school. And she really changed things. And one of my jobs was to sort of be this creative producer's assistant. And she had made one of the most influential movies in my life. It has shown up every time I watched it at different points in my life. It's like showed me different things about myself. And eventually she thought she needed somebody that had more experience in my position to be her right hand. And I can't really watch that movie anymore. I had another boss leading up to that who was very into like my improvement as in my position. This is the second highest position in any sort of animated film. And he started out really cool, and would give me notes, would invite me to different meetings. And then when she joined, because he had worked for her before, and I think when he caught wind that I was going to not be there anymore, he started, getting pretty distant from me when he didn't have to like engage with me. So everything that was for fun, like he didn't do anymore. And also part of how they had to justify that I should be fired was to put me through it, essentially an exam for 2 weeks, and to point out all of my mistakes. So they did that, and at the time I had no idea that that is sort of like what they had to do in order to give that final blow. So I suddenly was monitored for like a whole day. I had to report back on like, what I did today, and everything that got done. And I remember just him being like, oh, you're taking like really long for this thing, that and you shouldn't like have your to-do list this long. And I was thinking, you have never cared so much about what I do every day. My other boss got put in, and they were just like, okay, so you need to work on these things until for next week, and then we'll check in again next week, at the end of next week. I remember those days between the weeks of them giving those meetings were awful for me. I hate exams. So we did that. And then I actually thought I was in the clear like 3 weeks after the first meeting, because they didn't ask for another one. And then like suddenly it like sprung up on like later that Friday, I remember. And they were just like, my producer was like, we're so sorry. This is going to suck to hear, but we just need someone with more experience in your position. Now, actually, that I am talking about it and looking back on it, I'm just like, yeah, fine. That makes sense, because that was my first animated movie. I might give myself like a couple more projects to like work on in animation, but they are all hell on earth. Like the production process, like it's all chaos, which blows my mind given that the first one was made in 1912. So I might give myself a couple more chances, and then we'll see from there. But a lot of this was sort of just like had me contemplate, it's so like, I love movies and TV. I love the product so much. But do I love it enough to be put through this to stay? Anyway, after that, I have decided to come home for a while, to not be in LA. Because I worked so hard to be there, and this is what happened. Obviously, like, some people are just gonna be like, yeah, this is part of the process of working hard to do what you want to do. But I'm not sure if this is a break or this is me trying to do something else. Maybe I'll go back to working for animals. Who knows? But I do know that being away from the city where all this like happened is what feels right for me right now. So funny. I thought I'd cry, but I'm not, because that's just how much I've cried about this. Okay. But with that, I just want to let anyone know who's going through anything similar that I have been through it as well. I'm someone who works pretty hard and was raised to do that. So to sort of accept a break or defeat in this way is not easy. I do draw conclusions to each sort of event that I got let go or laid off from, but sometimes I forget them, and the hurt comes back. So but there's a lot of things in my life to like enjoy as well, which was definitely shown through Vlogmas. And the most important thing I've learned is to be around people that I care about. And I'm doing that right now. So it will be okay. I'm just taking it day by day and trying to enjoy every single second. Okay. I do have another video planned after this one that is sort of related, but I wanted to put this one up first. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.